Welcome back to On Your Plate, where we talk about the real mom things that no one is talking about. This month we have a very special episode for you planned because it's Women's Month, and we want to celebrate all the many things that women do. We're so excited to have so many special guests this time, and we're shaking things up because we have these moms coming to you from all over the world. They are entrepreneurs, they're influencers, they're content creators, they are doctors, they're specialists, and so much more. So we're so excited to get so many valuable tips from all these moms, because if you've been through it, probably someone else has too, and just hear from others and just embrace the process, right?
Yeah. And for us, I think that Mother's Month's an amazing month because everybody's celebrating alongside us, but we're always rooting women year round, right, Ellie? Mm-hmm. So this is exciting. We can do something different and just get a bunch of different voices, and let's go. Supporting women-owned businesses.
That was cute. And today we were filming at the lab, and we were so happy that they opened our doors to us. It's a women-owned business, incredible studio spaces. So if you're in need of some studio space, they're here in Hollywood, Florida, and we're absolutely so thankful for them today. So let's kick things off with our first mom, because we are so excited to hear her valuable tips on motherhood, breastfeeding, and so much more. First up, we have with us Mara Martin. She's an incredible mother of two. She owns Viral PR. We absolutely love her. She's also a Sports Illustrated sister of mine. She's known for going viral on the runway for breastfeeding her baby, which is so incredible, and we can't wait to hear more about this. But also we want to hear about how she juggles entrepreneurship, having two kids under, 6 years old? Two under 6. We're so happy to have you with us today, Mara.
Thank you guys.
You wear a lot of hats, girl.
So tell us more about juggling your PR company, being a mom, and doing it all, girl. You are doing it all.
Yes, I feel like the word juggle is like the perfect word for this, because everyone always says, oh, how do you balance? And like, there's literally no balance. Like, you are literally juggling. Like, one day I'm taking Zooms in a car line pickup. The next day I'm like packing lunches in a business suit. Like, it's just literally the biggest juggle of all time. You always wear hats. But to me, I feel like if anyone can get the job done, it's a mom, because we are so multifaceted and can do so many things at once. And I always say, like, I'm the ultimate multitasker with anything I do. So I'm like a professional multitasker.
Yes, awesome. You are. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen how Mara's juggling. She's like, hang on, I'm in the pickup line, or hang on, I'm going to get right back to this email. We're talking at like 11 o'clock at night. We're texting about what's going to happen the next day. It just does not stop. It's like, do we ever sleep? That's the biggest thing. It's like from 6 a.m., 5 a.m. to midnight, right?
It's fun though, right? Because it's just like you have to do it. And I also too enjoy having my kids around when I'm working, because then I can kind of, be hands-on, but also do work as well. So it's just kind of fun to incorporate them. And I also too, I always say this, I love setting an example for them too, because then they can see what I'm doing and what I'm passionate about, and having passions as a woman and as a mother. So I feel like it's a great example to set for them, to show that, hey, I like these things I'm doing and I'm working, and you guys can kind of come along with me.
So Mara, tell us more about motherhood and breastfeeding. I know that you had this viral moment, and we want to hear more about breastfeeding because it is hard. Breastfeeding is not easy.
So the moment in general was, I haven't even really comprehended it until now, years later, how impactful it was for women, because to me at the time when I went viral for breastfeeding, it was just something I did every day. So it didn't seem that special. I was breastfeeding all the time, so every 2 hours. So it just felt like a nothing moment. But years later, I realized how impactful it was, because breastfeeding is so hard. And I really think that it's such a glamorized thing in the media, and this beautiful thing, which it can be very beautiful, and it's a bonding experience. But for me, I found it to be really hard. It was very challenging. And here I was, this spokesperson for breastfeeding, but I was like, oh my God, behind closed doors, I'm like crying all the time, and trying to get your supply up, and it hurts, it's painful, and you're constantly on the clock working almost to breastfeed, to feed your baby. So it was like this whole other element that I found, wow, this is a really empowering moment, but also I could share how challenging it can be for women too.
So I 100% agree with you. I also breastfed all 3 of my boys. I started really well with my first son, committed and ready to go, but I was really going to give up. Like the first 4 weeks of breastfeeding, I cried, I bled, physically, I just thought I couldn't do it. And I just held on for 3 days and got support and kind of that education educational kind of support system that I needed. And then I finally ended up breastfeeding. But every year I found it more challenging just to like, I would tell my husband, I feel like a cow. Like I'm just needed for milk. And then every time the baby cries, someone's like, the baby's hungry. I'm like, no, the baby is not hungry. I just breastfed for 30 minutes. Like, leave me alone. So I think it's a part of like wanting your body back. Two, where it does feel like you're a tool. So I think I agree with the bonding. I love that I did it, but every single time I had a different child, my second, like for my first, I breastfed for an entire year. The second, I did like 6 months, and then Levi, my poor Levi, who's 2 years old, I lasted 4 months just because I just felt like, you know what, I've checked the box, I've done it, I've given him the nutrients that I felt like he needed, and then I wanted my body back.
But there's so much pressure as well. No, that's the thing, is it's so much pressure as well to feel like we have to, because unfortunately formula has been proven to be so bad in this country as well, that we feel this additional, I don't know, this different pressure that like if you give formula to your kid, it's bad for them.
Yeah.
And in my case, that I had a C-section and then I couldn't eat for 8 to 10 days. I couldn't even literally drink water. I literally had no milk. So, and I had a second surgery after that, and then recovery, and I was on an antibiotic, and I was worried that if I tried to start breastfeeding, that maybe the baby would get the antibiotic as well. So I think that there's just so many things that happen to us through labor, and we have this expectation that we're just going to breastfeed right out the gate, and it's going to be so easy, and it's just going to work. But also babies have problems latching, and babies have problems doing all these things. Plus it's like your work situation. It's like trying to get back in the workforce with a breastfeeding baby makes things a little bit more complicated. So in my case, for example, like I was saying, like after 8 days of not eating or drinking, I had no milk. And my doctor just literally sat across the table from me and was so beyond insensitive in the situation, was like, I can't believe you have milk at all. Some people die. And it was just like, I was just like, when he started to get into these conversations with me about the fact that he was shocked I was even trying to get breast milk, he's like, no, just use formula. You don't need to breastfeed.
Wow.
And I had such a vision of breastfeeding. And I'm like, no, I'm going to try my best. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But he made me feel this like, that I wasn't good enough to breastfeed, almost like, because I went through the situation. And they just put this like major, like, I don't label on me, like the mom that can't breastfeed. You know what I mean? And it just felt like even more pressure. So, I mean, what you did, Mara, tell us a little bit more about the casting process, because yesterday we were talking a little bit about it. Tell us more about going to audition for literally a runway show to be in a magazine with your baby, and tell us more about that process, because that's the part, I think that's like a perfect image of what mothers really go through with young children, trying to get back in the workforce and trying to succeed, because I know that it's not easy.
Yeah, and that's kind of a great segue because, you know, with breastfeeding, you're like the source for them, so you can't really do anything more than many hours. So Sports Illustrated had this casting, it's open call casting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go. This is my dream. I've been in the industry for so long. I have to do this. And because I was breastfeeding and, you know, I didn't have a babysitter because she was so young, I was like, oh, I'll just take her. I'll just take her to the casting, and we'll just go in and out. And, you know, and Kelly's a model and she knows this, but castings typically you walk in, give them your book, and they like kind of look you up and down, and then you're like out the door. So I had this envision of like, I'll just bring my baby in with my backpack, my diaper bag, and walk in and out, and then head home. Well, I got there and there was 10,000 girls there, and here I was in heels with my like 5-month-old and a diaper bag, and I didn't have a stroller because I thought it was going to be this quick process. And here I was, like so delusional to think, oh, I'm just going to hop in and out of Sports Illustrated. But that day I had been there from like 5 until 6 p.m., you know, as a mom, and then also I booked this job. And I don't know how, but I got done with the day and I was like so sore, and I got home and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so accomplished that I did this with my baby. Just the casting. I was like, I'm so proud of myself. And then we got the call to come back for the next round. I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. So when we booked the show, I was just obviously thrilled. It was a lifelong dream of Sports Illustrated. And Andre was like, oh my gosh, you should have Aria walk around the bus with you because she's been literally here this whole time. Like, you should have her walk with you. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And so we kind of had this plan, like if she was awake, I would walk out with her, and if not, no big deal. So the show got pushed back by like 2 or 3 hours, and so it was getting really late. So I had brought, you know, she was back to go to bed. And I told my husband, I was like, hey, can you come back here and take her? Because I'm not going to have a walk because it's too late. And I was 4th in line to go, and all of a sudden the lights popped up. And I went to find my boots. And you guys know, as like breastfeeding moms, like you can't pour off because you're going to be like spraying the oxygen. And I was like torn because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get out of line either because this is my dream. This is like, I booked this dream job. Like, what do I do? And I was like, I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up. No one's going to notice. I'm not going to care. So I had asked MJ if it was okay. And of course, she was like, yes, that's your baby. Like, super supportive. And I was telling Kelly this, being Kelly are good friends, and I was like, I didn't like think anything of it because like TikTok wasn't around then, and like going viral wasn't like a term or things we do. So I was like, no one's gonna see this. It's on Instagram, like no one's gonna see this. Who cares? So I went out there and like to my like this day, everyone had their phones out. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I get back in line, finish the show, bounce her to sleep, you know, all the things. The next day I had like TMZ at my door and news and good morning there. I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So it just created this huge moment for women around the world, and not even just normalizing breastfeeding, but also celebrating like the postpartum body and being a working mom and all these different facets. To me, I was just doing something I do every day.
It's so incredible how resilient women are, like how much we really carry and what we can do, and still like our ambition and motivation. Like I bet you there's like a lot of women that wouldn't even attempt to go to the casting without a baby, let alone with a baby for 10 hours with 10,000 women there. I mean, that's just like, I know as a model, I mean, I've been a model over 20 years. I didn't even go to the castings. It's because they were so long and it's hard, you know? Yeah. So Mara, give us some inspiration or some suggestions to working moms that are also breastfeeding, especially in those early months. What do you suggest? I mean, you made it work so gracefully, and I know you made it look good, but I know it wasn't easy. And we love seeing it because it's encouraging, but we know that it's not easy. So
yeah, I like look back and I think I wish I would have shared a little bit more of how hard it was, because at the time I was on this high of like, oh my gosh, I booked this dream job and like just all these amazing things and opportunities were happening. But it was really hard. I mean, I was traveling all the time with, you know, I get a diaper bag in tow and a baby that was breastfed every 2 to 3 hours. So I was the source for her. So, I mean, it was very challenging. So, like, my biggest advice is to find support and help. I was, like, so asking for help. I was in this, like, total, like, I can do it all. I'm the boss and all this thing. And looking back, I'm like, I should have asked for help. Like, hey, maybe I could step in and, you know, hold her for a little bit, or maybe I'd pump and her, or all these things. And I think asking for help is just so hard for moms in general.
I have to tell you, Mara, while you were saying your story, I got teary-eyed because as a mom, like to go and to be so powerful to walk into a room to do that, I do feel like in motherhood, when you have this baby, right, and everyone talks about motherhood being so hard, but at the same time, it's such a shield of like honor and of fuel and energy that takes you into rooms and spaces that you probably wouldn't have stood out. And being a mom is what made you stand out, right? And I think that that's such a good reminder for all of us today. Is
yeah, it's your superpower. I feel like it definitely births a new power inside of you. Moms are unstoppable. I always say that because we have a lot to lose if like we don't try.
Yeah.
You know, because we're not only supporting ourselves, but we're supporting our kids, and we're also an example for them. So like, I don't know, you grow a pair of balls, that's for sure.
I always say that it's being a mother. You know, everyone counts as a weakness, but it's really been my greatest strength. It really has.
This year it's about hot moms, right? And everybody's about the hot mom thing. But I think that the thing is that even like we were talking the other day, she knows somebody that's like 20 years old that she's just excited to get pregnant to be a hot mom. And it's like, I think that it's really good. No. I think that it's really good to share these things because of the element that we all look different pregnant as well. And I think that we all have a different experience pregnant. Like some people don't get sick at all. Some people want to have sex with their husbands. Some people hate their husbands when they're pregnant. Some people get nauseous the entire time. Some people don't, you know. It's like
some
the
people
hormones
are doing it alone. They don't
exactly,
have
or you're
a
having, you know, you don't have the help, and you maybe like can't work out during your pregnancy, so you have a tougher labor for whatever different reasons. So I think being that it looks so different, yet there's this society now, and there's always been a pressure in society, but now there's even more, especially with the TikTok generation, that you want to be this hot mom because it looks cool. And at the same time, like even for me as a model, I know my agency was like, okay, you're going to bounce back right after you have this baby, and it didn't look that way for me. And then I felt a lot of pressure pressure to get back to my size because that's actually my job. It's not just that I was being vain, but if I didn't fit the sample size, I couldn't work for the clients I'd worked for 20 years, you know? So I was kind of out of a job because I didn't bounce back. And that's like a deal breaker. Like that's like, wait a minute, like I love my son, but now what do I do for work? How do I support him? And I think that it brings so many unknowns and so many different variables that you kind of go a little cuckoo because your emotions can run high and you're like, this is not working. But I think that's what's so amazing about sharing these things is that it looks different for all of us. And I think we have to accept what comes with it. I didn't even like being pregnant. How did you feel about being, let's talk about being pregnant to begin with. We know how Mara feels, but let's hear about Britt.
No, pregnancy for me is the worst thing. I love having my 3 boys, and my husband's always like, let's go for a 4th. And I'm like, you can go by yourself, because if I'm pregnant again, you have to put me in a room with padded walls, because no, that's not happening. Like, I hated it from start to finish. I would get very nauseous, a lot of throwing up, swelling. I didn't feel cute. I never booked one maternity leave shoot. I see all of these women, and kudos to them that they want to be in a room with cameras around them with their belly hanging out. For me, that was not something that I wanted to remember, unfortunately.
So
now I kind of look back and I'm like, maybe I should have done it just so I can have a visual. I have no photos in my phone of me being pregnant.
You need the 4th so you can get your maternity shoot on. I'll help you.
I hate being pregnant. I hated being pregnant. I mean, it's just so glamorized, and I don't know. I think it's like this amazing experience after your life, but I don't think it's talked about enough of how hard it is. Like, there's hemorrhoids and back pain, and I was sick the entire time. I never had that glow. I'm like convinced people are lying about that. Like, you guys are liars. There's no glow. I was like glowing from my vomit, not from this pregnancy glow. But yeah, I hate being pregnant. I told my friends, I was like, I would rather give birth once a week than be pregnant for 9 months. Like, I enjoy giving birth and I love the babies and newborns, but it's like not for me.
One thing I did want to say is I said to a friend I hated being pregnant, and the friend looked at me and was like really hurt almost by that expression, because she was having so much trouble getting pregnant. And she's like, you don't know what a blessing. And then it almost got me teary-eyed, because I'm like, we say things and we're in these seasons in our life, and yes, they're hard and they're difficult, but you have to also choose your heart and be grateful, right? That it's pregnancy that you're going through. So I also, even for my 3rd, I was a little bit more mindful in the way that I expressed how I was feeling, because I'm like, no, this is a blessing. I know I'm vomiting for a reason. It's not because I'm sick or because I'm having some sort of issues. So I did want to even talk to women out there that are going, it's like, you choose your heart, and you also have to be grateful for what the burden that you're carrying, because there is a blessing at the end. But it's still hard. It's something that I just personally didn't enjoy, but I also was being a little bit more thoughtful on the way that I express myself, depending on what other people are going through, We
talked about being pregnant, we talked about breastfeeding, but there's also, like you said, a lot of loss. And obviously, as much as we can complain about being pregnant, there's also women that are having trouble to get pregnant, but also having miscarriages. And I know that recently, Mara, it's very recent for you. You went through a very personal situation in your family, having a miscarriage, and I just could feel it's like I just wanted to send you a hug, but I couldn't jump through the phone because I just know how hard that is. I myself had a miscarriage before I had my son, and I know that it carries a lot of confusion on why it's happening in the first place. But can you share a little bit more about what you went through recently? And
so this is super fresh, and I literally just shared on social media, but I had a miscarriage, and I never would have imagined in a million years it would happen to me. I had 2 healthy pregnancies, 2 easy pregnancies of getting pregnant, and I mean, it's just it's like a terrible movie when you watch this. I literally walked into the ultrasound. I was actually on my way to get photos of a new ultrasound so I could take pictures for a pregnancy announcement, and the whole room went silent, and everyone looked around, and I'm like, what's going on? Kind of in this bubble, because again, I had amazing pregnancies. So when they had told me that we had lost a heartbeat, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna get emotional. It was just this devastating thing, and I was there by myself because I was going just to get pictures. And so when I think about this, I think about how many women go through this. I was frantically Googling, so I had no idea about miscarriage until I experienced. I had actually had a missed miscarriage. No, nothing. So if I wouldn't have gone in, I probably wouldn't have known, and my body had held on to the baby, so I wasn't, going to let it go on its own. And so I was Googling all these things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, statistics are actually shocking. It's actually 1 in 4 women have miscarriages. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So I texted my friends and my girlfriend too. I had no idea. I had no idea she did. And so I was in this really tough spot, and I still am grieving it, where it's almost like you're suffering in silence and you feel very lonely throughout it. And you'll feel this like I'm the only one experiencing it. And I'm hoping that sharing is sharing. We're going through a lot of things, and maybe we're not sharing as much as we want to. But I hope this, helps somebody, because I know when I was going through it, I was literally Googling like hashtags, like miscarriage hashtags, and miscarriages, miscarriages that shouldn't, miscarriage that don't, because I was trying to find someone to connect with. I couldn't find anyone to relate to, and so I'm hoping this helps someone. But yeah, it's been very challenging for me, and it's this loss that I can't. You don't just lose a baby, but you lose all these like hopes and dreams. So we had already planned like getting a bigger car, and like where we were going to go on vacation, and all these things that you think about that you don't that do. So yeah, it's been a little hard. Sorry for crying, but it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, it's hard that a lot of women go through this and you don't even know they're going through it.
I feel like I want to cry.
Thank you so much for sharing, because I know it is going to help someone. It's such a taboo topic that people don't want to share, and they're uncomfortable sharing it. But I do think we have to normalize it, because there's women today that are going through this and they're kind of hiding it, or they're not wanting to even feel like, to tell anyone, because they don't want to make it a reality. But the reality is that so many women that I know have gone through this, and we have to come together as a community of like how to support one another and to just be here to get through it, because it's difficult. It's grief.
I've heard statistically miscarriages are very common, and what's I've noticed is happening more and more is they're not just happening in the first trimester, they're happening later on in the pregnancies, and even at birth. I've had a few friends, unfortunately, that have carried full term, and then at birth things happen as well, and the grief that's carried along with that, because even if it's if it's the first 4 weeks, like the second that you find out you're pregnant, or if it's full term, it's such a loss no matter what. No one can ever explain it. No one can ever take that feeling away.
You hear about it's very uncommon to have a miscarriage, because typically, it progresses naturally on things. So that was another thing too. I had no idea. I would never even thought about it. Again, I think the hardest part is like thinking about the life that you were like planning, and like all these things that you go into, like the emotional part of it. Because of course, physically it's hard too. It's like I had to go through the surgery. Your body's healing and all the things, but the emotional part's been the hardest part. To be honest with you, just thinking of grieving all the things that you want to do. And I was excited to tell my girls too. I mean, they're going to be big sisters. I mean, just all these things that you had planned. Women do, we plan these a life, what you're going to do and how you're going to, further your family. So it's been like,
Also, not just you and your husband, it's also with your girls that are gonna obviously have a sibling, and then now it's like you almost have to be cautious how soon you tell them, because you have to always think ahead, but at the same time you don't want to put negative thoughts in your head. I know that when I lost my first pregnancy and I had a miscarriage, it was so confusing that when I got pregnant with Harlem, the whole first even like 6-7 months I kept thinking I might lose this baby. So the whole time I kept putting this pressure on myself, and I was I have to take the L for this one, because I was a little mean to my son's dad, because it came with a lot more stuff emotionally than it really was his fault, because it had nothing to do with him. But I just was so emotional and overwhelmed being pregnant again, because it brought back all these feelings and all these fears. And like they say, you don't want to put the negative energy out there, but I couldn't stop it. Like I just kept thinking, it's not going to make it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be able to hold this baby. And another variable that I never knew that I just wanted to share is that I have a negative blood blood type. So many moons ago, before all the medical technology that we have, is that we didn't know that if you have a negative blood type, and let's say you're having a baby with your husband or your significant other is also a negative blood type, most likely the baby will have negative, so there's no issues. But if the man has a positive blood type and there's a chance that the baby has a positive blood type, now you have two different blood types kind of like basically in your body, that when you have positive and negative, it can actually kill the baby. So typically the first pregnancy will go okay for the mom, but if there's mixed blood at any point, which normally happens if you ever have any trauma or you have the baby at pregnancy, at delivery, you would get the positive blood cells in your body, and then every pregnancy after that most likely would end up being in a miscarriage because it would fight the cells. And that was something that they didn't know years ago. So I was just imagining when I was learning about this, because I didn't know about this till I actually had my miscarriage, and I like started panicking because I'm like, I've already had a baby now, what do I do? I can't have any more, because essentially, back in the day they would only be able to have one baby and they never knew why. So women were very disappointed. They just kept getting pregnant and having miscarriages and not knowing why. And now they have there's a medication that you can take, or like me, that I don't really love taking medications. I just waited till birth to find out, kind of took my chances, and thank God everything went well. But it's really incredible that there are other things like that from a chemical standpoint as well that has nothing to do with you, because I feel like you carry a lot of personal blame. Like you feel like you want to blame yourself. Like, what did I do wrong, right? I don't know how you felt. I felt personal blame. So I feel like there's a lot of reasons why these things happen from a medical standpoint, but then there's also the unknown, and we don't know why it happens. But I think there's just so much that happens to women, and we go through so much, and I think that's why it's so important to share the experience, because you're saying like how many people feel like it's like they don't want to share it because you feel bad about it.
Battle.
Yeah.
Because the more we share, we're learning different things, like even what you explored with your blood type, and then you start researching or doing different things, and that's the way that we can kind of overcome it.
Yeah, I agree.
Takes a village.
And Mara, we love you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
I hope that it helps. Even if it would help just one, I would be like eternally grateful. Again, I went through it. It was like this lonely space, and so I was like, I have to be there for somebody else, because it's just been this terrible experience to go through, and you don't have anybody that that's gone through it, and then it kind of opens the floodgates of like, wow, I just would have shared this, it would have helped maybe this. But yeah, again, I had no idea so many women went through this. I really didn't. And there's other different types of miscarriages, early on, late, and all the things. A loss is a loss. And so, again, the lossing of the baby, the hopes of doing some things you have. Yeah, I guess would help any mother that's gone through this. I would share it 1,000 times.
Well, we're so thankful to have you, Mara, and thank you so much for sharing. We love you. You're such an incredible mom. We're so thankful for you, and I want to give you a hug. Why is this not in person so that I can hug you? We're hugging for you. Thank you, Mara. We love you.
I don't know about you, but my cup is so full. Those conversations were amazing.
Just to also know that there's so many women out there that feel the same way as I do, and we all kind of are going through something similar, even if it's all unique. So we hope that you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more. Subscribe to our channel on your plate and smash that like button, because we got more to come.
Let's go.